One of the most challenging things that we have to do when we're starting out to learn an instrument is the first time we have to play a major scale on our instrument, all the way up and down, all 8 notes. And it's hard because there's a lot of things that our brain has to keep track of. We have to know the names of the notes. We have to know what our fingers need to do for the notes. If we're playing a wind instrument, we need to move our air at the correct speed to get the notes out. And we all have to do that with a steady tempo as well. That's usually asked of us. And it's a lot of things to keep track of, and our brains and our fingers can get a bit overwhelmed. So I made this video to come up with a few steps that I can show you to make this a lot easier and a lot more fun. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we need to do if we're going to use this method to learn how to play a scale is find a whiteboard or a piece of paper or anything really and write down the names of the notes in this pattern. So you can kind of see that it's going up because a scale kind of goes from a low note to a high note and then back down. So in this case, the scale that we're working on is the C scale for the trumpet. And so I've written out the notes from C to C here on the board. Now that we can sort of see everything that we're dealing with, this is where we're going to apply, I call it kind of a brain hack, to actually learn this pattern and learn it well. And here's what we're going to do. We're not even going to worry about the trumpet right now. We're just going to go up the scale, but we're going to follow a pattern. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start at the bottom, and we're only going to go up and add one note at a time, and then go back down. So I'm going to talk through the pattern. It should make sense pretty quickly. Here we go. So it's C, D, C, C, D, E, D, C, C, D, E, F, E, D, C. So by now you can see the pattern, right? Every time we make it to a note and come back down, the next time we go back up, kind of like climbing the stairs, we go up to the next note and come back down. And the reason this kind of works as a brain hack is it reinforces each part of the scale before we move to the next one. And it's really, really useful. So once you can talk through the scale a couple times and have an idea of knowing what the notes are and being able to say them and get used to the idea of how this pattern works, we're going to do the first thing that we need to do with an actual instrument in our hands. And this could be any instrument. I just happen to be holding a trumpet. And what we're going to do now is, as we say each note in the scale, we're going to do the correct fingering for it. And in that case, we're going to be able to, before we even play anything on the instrument, have our minds and our fingers knowing exactly what we need to do for each step of the scale. So just to demonstrate, I'll go up about halfway, okay? So starting on C. C, D, C. C, D, E, D, C. C, D, E, F, E, D, C. C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. So that's the pattern, and if you're doing that at home, you want to make sure that you add one step at a time until you make it all the way up to high C and back down. And the other really cool thing about this exercise, or this way of thinking about the scale, is we're working on going up and down the scale at the same time. Because a lot of teachers want to make sure that you can play the scale not just from the bottom to the top, from the top back down. That's where a lot of beginner musicians struggle when they play the scale. All right, so now that we've done that, and we've got used to the idea of what our brains and our fingers need to do, it's important to connect that to the idea that, music is sound. And so what we're going to do now, the last thing before we actually play the whole pattern, is we're going to sing the whole pattern. Okay? And I'm not going to sing the whole pattern now just to keep the video short, but I'll just give you an idea of what it's going to sound like, to actually be singing the notes and moving our fingers. All right. C, D, C, C, D, E, D, C, C, D, E, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, but when you sing it, don't worry about getting the notes exactly right. You know, if you're starting out in music, maybe you don't have a lot of experience singing, but at least try and get your voice to follow the shape of the scale moving up and down, because it's going to make it a lot easier, especially if you're playing a brass instrument. So that's, you know, the theory behind it. We've done all the mental work we need to do now, and now you're at the point where you can try to play this on your instrument after you've done those steps. And it's going to be a lot easier. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to finish off the video and I'm going to play the whole thing up and down. And I'm even going to have a metronome going in the background, so a click to give us a steady time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 beats between every pattern. So that way you can be able to play along. And so you could sing along with it, play along with it, listen, practice moving your fingers. So yeah, here we go. So have a listen. 1, 2, 3. So as you can see, it didn't even take 2 minutes to go through that whole pattern when I was playing it on the instrument. So that goes to show that if you take the time and whatever scale you're working on, if you decide to use that brain hack to learn the scale and to practice the scale, you can get in the habit of taking less than 5 minutes every time you practice to just make sure that you can learn a scale or review a scale that you've learned in the past. This method is really quick and a really good way to make sure it sticks in your brain. And the cool thing about learning scales is it's kind of the first step to making your own music. And if you can look at a scale and kind of picture it like this, there's a lot of music in here as well. And we can talk about that in another video. Okay, best of luck. Good luck with your practice. Bye-bye.